College football has finally ended with the national championship game in Santa Clara, California, yesterday, and I think I speak for all of us when I say we're all happy Nick Saban didn't win. So congratulations, Clemson, to Dabo Swinney and his crew. The ACC gets a champion again, which matters for someone like me, who's a Florida State fan, and I guess Charles as well, because he's a Hurricanes fan.
And it just matters to me because it's not Alabama.
Yeah, it's not Alabama, and there's already talks that this might actually be another game we'll see next year. Which, yeah, is an exasperated sigh by Andrew if we see this matchup one more time. So, guys, anything that jumps out at you about the college football championship game?
I will say that I already thought people were jumping to conclusions pretty early. A couple of weeks ago, they were saying Tua Tagovailoa is the greatest college football quarterback ever. And even that, don't get me wrong, the kid's a great player, and I'm saying this even not taking into account last night's game, which was not good. But now people are starting to say that Trevor Lawrence, who's the starting quarterback for Clemson, is perhaps the greatest college football quarterback
Sup,
ever.
Shen? No problem, dude. You're here this week, and we can talk about college football, which we're doing right now.
So it drives me nuts that, don't get me wrong, Trevor had an amazing season and even more amazing game last night. But people are just already jumping to these superlatives, and it's insane. That being said,
sorry, Shen, F Clemson. Okay, yeah. So that being said, Lawrence,
great quarterback. It was a great game for Clemson, a terrible game for Alabama, and already the Alabama fans are coming out and trying to justify the loss.
I already saw somebody tweet, and I mean, you can see all kinds of hot takes, quotation marks, but somebody's already like, this is another example of this team being badly coached. Fire Nick Saban. I don't know who said that. I don't know if they were being sarcastic or if they were just some satire. I don't know.
They better be. They better.
I mean, I would hope that would be the thoughts of Alabama fans, and Nick Saban just rides off into maybe not the sunset, but maybe a rocket ship 2 that's heading into the sun. But Nick Saban still has one of the best teams in the country, so
no doubt, absolutely.
There's no way that they're gonna fire him anytime soon.
The guy has a job there for life. He could, if he so chooses, he could be a skeleton and still coaching, and they wouldn't get rid of him. Not to get any all morbid about it, but the dude has proven himself over and over again that he's probably one of the greatest college football coaches of all time.
Well, I mean, initial thoughts. I'm happy for Clemson for beating Alabama. ACC actually has a representative, but the thing is, Clemson is so far ahead of every other ACC team right now that as a Florida State fan, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, yeah, we might be another 3 or 4 years out if Clemson still continues their amazing run of seasons right now under Dabo Swinney, and he is also an Alabama alum, Swinney, and he's put together a program that, honestly, if you are in the ACC Coastal Division, you are just hoping to get to that ACC championship game, and that's it. You feel like you have no real shot against them. So,
yeah, it's crazy to.
I'm happy for an ACC winner, but at the same time, I'm just like, man, what? And Florida State's in the division. Like, how are we overcoming that in the next 3 or 4 years.
It's funny how the narrative has changed in such a short amount of time. Because back in 2013...
Yeah, Florida State seemed like...
I remember I was at a CC's with my family, and the FSU Clemson game was on in the background. And I just saw FSU absolutely demolish Clemson. And I thought...
Good times.
I thought, man, this FSU team is going to be dangerous for a long time, and Clemson is screwed.
Yeah, that's when famous Jameis was just starting to open up his turnover factory.
Exactly. Well, remember, that was the year you won the national championship.
But that's the year we won the national championship. And then the following season, I had no idea how we made it to the college football playoff, but we did. Because we barely got through our entire schedule. And then, Oregon put us in our place.
Right. It's crazy how just 5 seasons later, the narrative has completely flipped. Now it's FSU is at the bottom of the division at this point, doing something practically historic. The last time they didn't make a bowl was before you were born.
Yeah, it was
before.
Yeah, was it early '80s? I guess
36 years.
Yeah, 36 years. But
and now Clemson is. They are doing what we thought FSU would be doing back in 2013. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Hey, Charles, what do you think? We haven't heard from you.
I got a lot of opinions on it, and I'll try to bullet point it. One, it was one of the few championship blowouts that I watched from start to finish and enjoyed. It wasn't like Seattle and the Denver Broncos where it was like 40-6 or 48, and I'm like, all right, this is horrible. Because it was good. Trevor Lawrence, going to him, is a stud at 19 as a freshman. He plays with poise. The O-line held him up pretty well. Bama just seemed out of it, and we've seen that in certain games this year. They didn't get their mettle tested. Him, Justin Ross, Etine, they had all those guys, and it was enjoyable. And I mean, I enjoyed it. It puts the whole college program on notice that they are now the top god. But I don't think that they're going to get the Bama preference, because all it takes is one loss, and you might not even get into the college football playoffs. And I think they're kind of there, but depending who they lose to, if they're going in, 13-1, 14-1, whatever the numbers are, 12-1, they might not get that preferential treatment. Bama's not out of it. They have like the second best or the best recruiting class, but Dabo is just kind of creating the blueprint of how to be like Nick Saban in the ACC. Aside from that, it's not boring of a championship rivalry for me, because the scales are balancing pretty well. It's, Clemson wins one, Bama wins one, Clemson wins one, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Just a side note. I thought we had just a comment. Was it Trevor Lawrence? You said looked like Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
Yes.
I actually think he looks like Tim Lincecum if he ate a super mushroom from Mario. Doesn't he? Or at least, he kind of does.
I can get behind both of that.
Yeah, Lincecum's about, my height, so if he ate a super mushroom, he'd probably look like that.
It also looks like he's on some sort of illicit drug. I'm not saying mushrooms, but he kind of has this almost Californian vibe to him, very relaxing.
I mean, where is he from? Is he from like South Carolina or?
Let's find out.
Like the person who stood up to me, of course, is Justin Ross.
Tennessee.
He's from Tennessee, but Justin Ross, dude, that guy had a game. I mean, the catches that he made.
He had the catch in the end zone, right? That seemed very uncatchable.
He had that one-handed catch.
Got it.
He had that one on the sideline where he just bobbled it, but he concentrated enough and he caught it. Like, that dude balled out, and that's when, and then that fourth quarter by Clemson, man, they did not let up whatsoever. I mean, Lawrence he took that ball and he just ran straight up the gut. against Alabama's defense. Like, try and stop us. Just try and stop me right now. We're not going to let up. I mean, they didn't take out their starters until, the 3 minutes left into the fourth?
More or less.
Yeah, so...
I was bummed that they didn't get the next touchdown. I really wanted them to salt the earth.
I think that it might have... I mean, still, it's Dabo Swinney's alma mater, so maybe a little bit of respect towards them, but I don't know.
Although that does bring up something interesting. I know people said this when Alabama missed the national championship a couple of times ago when they lost to Clemson last time. But things seem a little bit different. Reese Davis brought this up in the post-game last night. Something feels different about this Alabama loss. This is, for Alabama under Saban, this is a historic loss. It's the first time they've lost by more than 14 points in a game. It was the most...
Somebody pointed out, this was the last time a Nick Saban coached team lost by this much was, I think, when he was coaching the Miami Dolphins. And J.P. Lossman, of all people, for the Buffalo Bills, threw 3 touchdowns in that game in a loss for the Dolphins against the Bills. I think the Bills were at home. So that was in...
What foreshadowing?
That was in 2006, I believe. So, and I guess the last time in college football was when he was at LSU in 2004, which I believe might have been against Alabama. So, a lot of connections there with Nick Saban's past. Dolphins fans are obviously savoring this loss because there are still a ton of Dolphins fans that are salty beyond belief about Nick Saban abandoning the team for Alabama.
So I guess my question is this the beginning of the end? And this will make for a good clip for our show.
Beginning of the end for Nick Saban at Alabama or Nick Saban in general?
I should say beginning of the end of the Saban dynasty.
Because college football coaches have a tendency to last until they're 80 years old.
I know, but I mean the Nick Saban saga at Alabama where they win every year, every other year.
I mean, I think one of the things this Clemson win shows, and especially the fact that they've beaten them twice already, is that there's at least one program out there that knows the weaknesses of Alabama, can go to toe-to-toe with them, isn't intimidated by them. I mean, the closest you got other than that was Georgia, who maybe might feel... I see Shen's got a comment here. Got a feeling Saban is going to go like Spurrier went. Possibly. I mean, he could take the Dolphins job right now if he wanted to. Could you imagine that? That'd be funny. But I think Clemson kind of might... That victory from Clemson might give some SEC teams maybe like a glimmer of bravery. Sort of like some essence of bravery that, hey, we can go toe-to-toe with Alabama. And, I mean, we could just coach a little better, have our players a little more motivated or what have you. They could possibly bring in some weaknesses, but that might take maybe 2 or 3 more seasons. I don't think this will peter out like that anytime soon. I mean, it's still Nick Saban. He's still got top recruiting classes until you get like maybe a 2 or 3 season stretch of mediocre to average play. I don't think Bama's hold in the SEC and college football in general is going to weaken at any time soon. But
what do you think, Sir Charles?
I don't think it's the beginning of the end because you got the recruiting class, and then the real SEC competition is going to be Georgia for the moment until Jake Fromm kind of heads out and a few of those players do. It's concerning that he can't beat a team that they often see because I'm not going to count the Sugar Bowl. To be honest with you, they won like 24-6. I'm going to count the main championship game, and they got whooped in this one. But I think I've said it all season that Bama just doesn't. They look too content and complacent with what their status is. They haven't earned it. And also, it depends on what you define as a dynasty. Because I'm gonna say it's an end of a dynasty in the idea that you keep going to a finals and you keep losing. All you have now is just a handful of championships.
I mean,
but it depends on definition of dynasty, I guess.
I mean, ever since what?
I mean, I think it's safe to say that Saban has created a dynasty in Alabama.
I think he's won, what, 4 or 5 of the last 6 or 7 seasons?
I think he has 6 championships just with Alabama.
Okay, so, I mean...
Well, he had that, but I mean, like, if it's a continuing loss, like, let's say the next 2 years with Tua, they go, but they don't win.
So the LeBron
then
factor.
congratulations. Yeah, the LeBron factory. That's not a dynasty. That just means you're second best. Or first loser.
I mean more in the sense of they're not winning the conference championship last year didn't hurt them, but I mean that they're starting to not get into the playoff any longer, or it's becoming much more sporadic. Because here they've been they're the only team that's been in the playoff all 5 years.
Yeah.
Not necessarily making it to the championship, but actually being in that top 4.
But we talked about it, or I mentioned earlier, preferential treatment from the college football playoff evaluators.
But at what
Bama,
point,
until they lose like 2 games, 3 games, are always going to kind of get in, right?
Right, but at what point does reality start to set in for those evaluators and they see, we can't vouch for these guys anymore. They legitimately do not belong in the top 4.
It would have to be a Notre Dame type of moment, like this season. Like where they lose a playoff game 30-3, okay, and just have no semblance of any sort of pulse whatsoever. That would probably be what it would take. If they would have to have some sort of loss like that, or a loss to an up-and-coming team, or if you expand the playoff and they lose to UCF, let's say, just to throw that little nugget in there for you, Andrew. If they lose to a team that is wholly unexpected to beat them, then that's when you'll start to feel a little. You'll start to see a little cracks in the Alabama stone statue. If you will.
Let me correct myself from earlier. I said that he had won 6 national titles with Alabama. I was wrong there. He's won 6 total.
Okay,
One was with LSU back
okay.
in 2003, and he's won 5 with Alabama.
Okay, so yeah, I said 5. Okay, 5 of the last like 7 or 8 seasons. Does what?
He's averaging one every
Alabama's dominated the SEC since Tim Tebow left.
Right.
So, it's kind of terrible for me either way. We can't have Tim Tebow back in college. Well, we can't have Bama winning all the time at the same time. Mm-hmm. Tim Tebow can stay mired in Port St. Lucie with the Mets. All right, so any more thoughts from the game, guys? I mean, more takes, more what have you. Any?
You want to add anything to it, Shin, or anyone else who's watching?
That will move on. Because there's a lot more football to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. College football as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can stay on the topic of college football. I mean, we still have...
I figure we still have another 30 minutes. I got nothing.